Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going over the most recent live stream where we got a reveal of a new world boss. We got Firebrand the Dragon revealed to us. We saw that as a 40-man raid. And then we also did get a small preview of the Citadel of Steel Bloom, which is a pocket dungeon that we will be able to explore in Alpha 2. Today we're going through the details of that live stream and what I liked, what I didn't like, and what we didn't see. So let's get into it. So we're going to start off with Firebrand, the raid boss. This boss spawned out of the event that the team took part in the Citadel of Steel Bloom. Part of their quest was to retrieve a relic that was being used by the inhabitants of the Citadel. And they retrieved this egg. It was a dragon's egg. And once the team exited the Citadel through the front, they were met with Firebrand coming down from the sky. Now, I do like how the entrance occurred for our dragon. It looked really cool coming in, flying in. It drops. It did this, roar as it landed and, kind of engaged the team. And then it just sat there, right? Which was good to see, because you get to kind of experience the mob, this raid boss, before actually interacting with it. So you got to see it do its animations and things like that. Once the team engages it, right, we get a 40-man raid. And again, I think, as I said in my preview expectation video, we got a lot of similar and familiar mechanics that we as gamers, come to expect. And they even said so in the live stream that, part of their goal was to have similar or familiar mechanics that we are all, relate to when it comes to fighting a dragon type raid boss. But also they want the unknown to be there for the players. So we saw, tail swipes, claw attacks, breath attacks, stomps, all sorts of stuff. Unknown factor, I really didn't see an unknown factor, to be honest with you guys, as far as a mechanic that was occurring. Everything that we saw Firebrand do, I think, is a mechanic that we've seen before in other games or other bosses, and have been able to strategize around and fight. So I didn't see the unknown, which is fine. It could be something that we're keeping secret till Alpha 2, right? Till A2. We're 2 months out from A2 at this point, so they could be keeping that a secret. Second, I did think the dragon did look pretty cool. There were some similarities between, this dragon and the dragon from Alpha 1, which is fine. I would have liked to see them, maybe change him a little bit. And I think they did. They did enough for the story arc that they were doing with Firebrand in this particular live stream, right? The whole story arc was that the inhabitants of the Citadel, stole this relic, and as a result, the bonus of this relic gave them a flame elemental type buff. So the inhabitants of the Steel Bloom morphed from their normal form to a flame enhanced type version of that. So, the story arc of, fire and flame with this dragon is great. We did also get some new information, something that we haven't really heard too much talk about. And they talked about how there are different age groups of dragons in Ashes of Creation. And I think they said this iteration of Firebrand was a young adolescent or a young adult red. is how they described it. So that's interesting. I kind of want more information on that. I don't think we've gotten any information on ages and types of dragons within Ashes of Creation. So that's kind of cool to get a look at. We didn't get two different, again, we were told two different forms of Firebrand. So we didn't see two different forms. So maybe that's the unknown aspect of, the different form of Firebrand. Or it could be that Firebrand is summoned in a different form. Because Steven said that this version of the dragon that we saw was the summoned version based on the events that occurred in the Citadel, right? The relic spawned, someone went and got the relic, and then this version of the raid boss was then triggered. So there could be another way to trigger a different version of this raid boss, which is kind of cool. Makes, for an interesting game loop. Different types of fights too, right? Because that could be a different type of fight even with Firebrand at that point, right? If it's a different age of the dragon, maybe he has, more abilities, or the unknown factor, or the second form, things like that. What we saw of the Steel Bloom, or the Citadel of Steel Bloom, was nice. I think the art team is doing a great job with some of the things around the structure. I really did like the structure itself. However, I will say that I think the lighting needs to be addressed. Lighting has been an issue, I think, for a couple of different live streams as they've been iterating in Unreal. And I understand, Steven's perspective of, he wants to make it challenging or difficult to see in low light or in high light situations. But I think it takes away from the overall experience and immersion of the game when we have things like we can barely see what is behind the character, right? I think the rays around the epicenter of the light source, right? The light source is the sun in the middle, but the outer rays, like those god rays, those are nicely done, I think. But the overall of that picture was blurred because of how intense the sun was. And we get it again a little bit here, right? We're having a hard time seeing the actual structure based upon where the sun is in the sky. Now, yeah, that's kind of cool as a game mechanic, but it also removes the immersion. We can't see this great structure that they created here. This is one of the most interesting structures I think we've seen on stream, and yet we can't see those great details that they're trying to convey to us to build this world that we are a part of in Vera. Now, I will say, right, the overall landscape of the dungeon looks pretty cool based on the map. We only see a little bit of the Citadel. Again, right here we have the cauldrons of fire and the light, and this would be very cool looking, I think, if we didn't have this giant bright white light shining in our face all the time. The other little critique that I have is I think the fires look a little bit too chaotic. They look like they're sped up way too fast for what it would be like compared to, a real life fire. So again, I think we could maybe change the animation on these fire cauldrons, these burning pits a little bit. Just bring them down a little, because that does look very chaotic to me, and it draws my eye away from what's going on. Now, as the team does their prep work, obviously, we see a full party here of 8. They have a tank, 2 healers, and the rest are all DPS, right? So that was cool. Another aspect of this relic being spawned here is that the mobs here are now elites. So they were 2 and 3 star elites here, based off of the events that took place to lead up to this relic becoming spawned in the Citadel of Steel Bloom. As the team progresses through, we see more and more of the Citadel. This is another great example of some good architecture that is being shown off here by Steven, but that sun is absolutely drowning out what is going on, right? And I understand, again, right, we're looking directly at the sun and it's drowning everything out, but I think if they dialed it down just a little bit and gave us a little bit more visual behind the light coming at us, we could see a little bit more detail of the surrounding area, because this area looks really, really cool. As I was watching the stream, I was like, wow, this is huge. You know, you get this huge courtyard and this huge structure in the background, the bloom that was happening on the architecture, super cool. But you couldn't get a good detailed look at it based on the lighting. So again, I think lighting needs to be addressed in this iteration of what they're showing us, right? And again, right, it's all in development towards Alpha 2 and you know, the standard Steven disclaimer. But I think at this point, you know, lighting should be getting minor tweaks and not massive tweaks after all the different iterations that the team has done on lighting and lumens and all of that. So maybe it's an out of here expectation considering we are going into Alpha 2, but you know, that's just where I'm at personally at this point, right? Could it be better? Yes. Is it horrible? No, but it is in a state where it does draw your eye away from the overall goal of the game, which is to bring you into this world. Now, again, as the team fought forward, we kind of get our first glimpse at what the quest is that they're doing, right? So they fought their way in from the entrance. They got into the courtyard here, and their objective is to spawn a commander of the Steel Bloom, so that then she can go and channel and try and take down this elemental force field or what have you around this item that they need, that these cultists have been holding, right? And what happens is the team then essentially spawns in a wave survival attack of mobs, right? They get rid of all the mobs in the courtyard. They activate the ethereal type altar area right here that we're going to spawn in the commander. And then they have to defend that point for a little bit. Now, as a mechanic, cool. I like it, right? That's fun. That's great. You know, you fight some mobs getting in. Then you have to survive a couple of waves to spawn in the person that you need or this entity that you need, and you move on to the next thing. The only issue that I took with this is after they completed the wave, they've spawned the lady of the rose here, the commander, and they go to the altar where this relic is, and they encounter an ancient, right? And there's going to be this battle between good and evil here, right? The lady that they spawn and the ancient is going to try and stop them from getting this relic. And then the team now has to protect the lady and defend against waves of mobs. I like it. However, I think as a gameplay loop, I could see where this might get boring for some people. Because it's, you know, fight in the path of this dungeon, right, so far has been, we get to the entrance, we clear a couple of mobs, we clear a few more mobs, we enter an open space, survive a wave attack, move into the next place, survive a wave attack, and keep your NPC healed. It just was kind of repetitive. Whereas I would think, you know, an open world dungeon would have more maybe going on, right? More fighting mobs and less of these wave types attacks, because what that's going to do is that's going to funnel players into one central area, right? So a good example of this is, you know, Steven and the team, they're an 8-man group here fighting, trying to get this relic. And let's say 2 more other 8-man teams come into this area not knowing what's going on. They're going to be centralized on this, right? And again, right, it's hard to discourage or hard to predict what players are going to do, obviously, right? But I think as a gameplay loop itself, this might get boring for some people. And I'm not saying that this is a bad mechanic either, this wave and then wave healing, right? That's fine, but I could see where people are going to find this not fun because it's a repeated loop. Survive a wave, right? And then it's also going to incentivize other people who are PvPing to come in and I think possibly try and gank the other team or try and steal whatever the other team is doing, unless it is specific that only these 8 people can see this relic. They have the quest. They can only see the relic. So the only downside is that the PvPers coming in can kill these folks before they can obtain their relic. Other than that, if everyone can see the relic, then obviously it's risk versus reward and all of this that Ashes is trying to give. But I do think it is going to make people, it's a spicy take, right? It's a spicy take. I think in this situation. Overall, my expectations are, they're pretty met, right? As far as what we've seen in this live stream. We saw the raid boss, which I think was really cool to see. We saw a little bit of the Citadel. We didn't really see that much of it, though. So, to me, I am wondering what the Citadel holds. Because if what we saw is the only part of the dungeon, right, where we walk in through the front, we get that open courtyard, and then there's a building in the center, and nothing else, that's not, to me, that's not a dungeon. That's more of a POI and a point of interest. So, just going by what we saw on the stream, the Citadel of Steel Bloom right now does not feel like a dungeon to me. It feels like a point of interest where a relic spawned and a raid boss comes. Now, if that's what they're going for, great, they hit the mark. But if they're going for a actual dungeon, I did not get dungeon vibes from it. And the best way to explain it to you who have been following is compare Citadel of Steel Bloom to the Tower of Carfen. The Tower of Carfen felt more like a dungeon because there was more to do when you got in and around it and inside of it. So you had to fight a lot of monsters, or you fight your way through to getting to the interior, the front entrance. And then inside, there were multiple floors to the Tower of Carfen. Whereas Citadel of Steel Bloom, you fought through the entrance, and once you got into that courtyard, I didn't see any other monsters populating that courtyard anywhere. After they killed that first initial wave where they had the magma golem, or people are calling it a gorilla, but that magma golem that they had, after they killed all of that, before they spawned in everything from the ethereal thing, the ethereal altar or whatever that was in the middle, I didn't see any other NPCs around. So to call it a dungeon is a little bit of a stretch for me. The raid boss, like I said, was really cool to see. I liked it. Positive feedback on the raid boss itself, because we're gonna have to experience the second type of phase of him that we get to see, however we spawn him in. So we're excited, guys. We're moving towards Alpha 2. Steven did also say that recently they sent out 6,000 emails to Alpha 1 holders to join testing, and that in the next coming weeks there are going to be more emails being sent out. So they're starting to bring more and more people into the servers that are pre-testing before all of us get in on Alpha 2. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, liking the video. Put your comments down in the comment section, what you liked, what you didn't like. Do you think that the Citadel of Steel Bloom constitutes a dungeon, or is it more of a POI right now? Did you like the raid boss? Did you think the mechanics of the raid boss were cool? Is this something you want to interact with and enjoy? Put your thoughts in the comments. go ahead and throw them into the forums if you're part of the Ashes of Creation forums. Everything as far as socials is linked in the video description, guys. So go ahead and follow us all there on all of our social media. You also can join our Discord for our guild. If you are looking for a guild, we would be happy to have you. We are a smaller to medium-sized guild based around a community. We want to interact with everybody. We actually want to be a community of like-minded folks who enjoy having fun and kind of decompressing and de-stressing. But as always, we'll see ya on the next one.